need for salvation is a very interesting thing, especially when people talk about their independence, their free will. If you need someone to save you, or you need a counter culture or mainstream culture savior, someone who validates your opinions, you're really a slave. Suffering from a disease, and the disease is that you have not understood that the problem is really your belief in external salvation beyond yourself. If you didn't need to feel this desire to have an authority figure or a celebrity or a politician validate and express your feelings, you wouldn't need these saviors in the first place. And this is the root of the problem. We are very carefully controlled from the time we're children to have a sort of the need for a savior.
There is no turning back. You got to face the truth. It's all you have to do. Hit the ground and run. Take a second glance towards the rising sun.
You grow up with that picture of Jesus Christ with his Dionysian beard and long hair, and his softness and his Aryan looks. And you believe that deep in your subconscious that this is someone you need. But you're missing the point completely. Salvation is your own ass. Accept it and please deal with it.
There is no turning back. You got to face the truth. It's all you have to do. Hit the ground and run. Take a second glance towards the rising sun.
Good evening and well, or good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it bloody is over there where you are.
This is the Velocity of Now. Me, your host, Thomas Sheridan. The date is the 15th of December 2016. This fucking year is nearly almost over. I can't wait because Christmas is so busy for me and I'm knackered. I'm looking forward to having a bit of a rest in January. But as I said, I promised I would pump out the shows whenever I had a break. And what you just heard at the beginning there was a wonderful remix of the title tune, which I wrote a few years ago, of the Velocity of Now by John Presley. I'll put a link below to his YouTube channel, and you can go to his SoundCloud page and so on from there. I think he did an amazing job, especially when the female singer comes in. And he did the tune justice. I only wrote that in like 15, 20 minutes. I quickly needed a theme tune for when the show was on the Type 1 radio network, and I banged it out on my old Yamaha synthesizer. I was quite happy with it. And the Roland 808 drum machine, which I've had for years. And so that was just a quick tune, and people always remark about how much you like it. And I'll just play that for you now, and I might do something from now on, play that at the end of the show, and play the original theme at the beginning of the show, because it's so good, I like it that much. And that's also an open source file, my one, not John's one. And if any of you want to remix it or anything, put overdubs on it or use it for anything, once you give me credit, that's fine. It's yours to, those of you who are producers or musicians who want to play around with it, anyone who wants to put a guitar on it. I think it was in a weird key. I think when I recorded it, it was in something like D sharp, a key I wouldn't normally play in. So if you want to try and throw a guitar thing on it or something, I think there's a lot of things. I don't have the time, but there's a lot to be done with it. So thank you very much for that, John, and well done. I think it's quite beautiful, actually, in many ways. So here we are, getting closer to Yule, Christmas season, and all this stuff, and the weather's been incredibly mild, strangely mild, and the mild weather still continues. There has not even been a hint of ice or anything. There's been nothing. It's been very, very odd climatically. And also the full moon out last night. Now, normally this time of year when you get a full moon, even around here, there's a very good chance that full moon will be under snow, and you'll have a white landscape illuminated by the full moon. It wasn't like that. It was warm and damp. Well, not warm, I'd say it was mild and damp. I mean, I've been going around the last few days with a t-shirt on the outside. That's how strangely mild it's been. And it's probably, if there's a global warming thing happening, it's nothing we can do about it. We've no control over it anyway. That's just a doomsday cult for the middle classes and the wealthy and super rich. And if anything, it's caused by the sun. In fact, there's some very strange clouds in the sky. I've noticed they look like they've been torn to pieces, and they point away from the direction of the sun. So they're very high clouds up in the stratosphere, and they look like they're being smashed by the sun, like literally like cotton. You know when you pull cotton wool balls apart and they strip like that? They look like that, and they're always facing away from the direction of the sun. So if the sun is in the south, the frayed ends of these torn clouds are pointing to the north. If the sun is in the east, they're pointing to the west. So they look like they're actually being hit from behind by the sun, which I don't know if that makes a lot of sense considering how far the sun is away, but that's the way they've been appearing. They're actually quite pretty, and especially when the sun goes down, they get illuminated very beautifully if you get a red sky or in the morning. Now, tonight's show is about something that I want to make a slight revision on. When Trump got elected, I was thinking in terms of we were entering into a new renaissance. And then I thought about it some more and I looked around me, and I think we are actually entering into a new dark age. Now, I could see a lot of you going, "Oh my God, a new dark age!" And I remember getting into an argument on the David Icke Facebook page with some people who posted a graphic about they showed someone being torn to bits by horses, and it said it was called the Dark Ages for a reason, and the artwork was from the Middle Ages. And when I pointed this out, it says the Dark Ages were actually a great time, especially in Europe, and that image is from the Dark Ages, or from the Middle Ages. Most people realized that I was right, but you always get this. He attracts some awful enormous amounts of morons to his work, and they don't usually last long. Many of them they're like the morons who get attracted to my work. They don't last long, and then they're going to just like vanish.
But anyway, they were like, "What do you mean the Dark Ages was evil?" That's a lot of born again Christians follow him, and so that's why the Dark Ages they're interesting. The Dark Ages were only the Dark Ages for Imperial Roman Christianity. That's the only ones they were a dark age for. Now, there was also climatic issues that may have been caused by a asteroid or a comet that caused enormous ecological damage around that period that lasted for several hundred years and may have led to the creation of Islam even as Muhammad's family moves south from the south in Yemen towards Medina and up towards Mecca to found this lunar death cult known as Islam. And Islam is a lunar death cult. That's what it is. It's a lunar death cult. Now, if that offends you as a Muslim, I don't care. I put down everyone else's religion, and every other Abrahamic religion. You're not being singled out here. It's a lunar death cult, and that's why you have issues with women. Women are heavily connected to the moon through their menstrual cycles, and this is why. Also, Islam is based on this lunar secular pagan cult that developed by the Yemenites, the ancient pagan Yemenites. All these religions are all pagan. Judaism is Canaanite. Christianity is a mixture of Mithraism and Horus, what you call it, Hermeticism, and Islam is a pagan death cult that originated in the Yemen, Oman region. Now that's okay. You're allowed to title anything, but that's what you are. Now that's what your origins are anyway, but you still are. That's why you have like the beheading and stuff like that. There's the association of the severed head. It's very strongly connected to the idea of the moon. The man in the moon is a severed head floating in space, and so the actual removal of a human head through beheading is a sacred sacrament within Islam because the beheaded it's a sacrifice to the lunar god, the man in the moon, the face on the moon, and that's why it will never change. It will never end. And that's not to say Christianity doesn't have its abominations. They're absolutely worse. But having said that, during the Dark Ages, Islam was actually reformed for a while, shall we say. Islam became a proper philosophical theology, in that, particularly through the rise of the Moors, these Berbers and North Africans, who, although there were colonialist wars that did infiltrate into Europe, particularly in the Iberian Peninsula, when this had settled down, there was a great period of learning and growth. Islam flourished in Spain, Portugal, in parts of Persia, in Turkey, in parts of North Africa. It was a great flourishing of Islam. And Islam had undone a lot of the horrific damage that Christians had done, say with the destruction of the Library of Alexandria, the horrific slaughter of Hypatia, which brought an end to the classical period and gave us the real horror period, the early days of Christianity, when Christians were just basically a ISIS type group who were slaughtering everything right up until the Constantine, and then we had the foundation of the invention of Jesus Christ at the Council of Nicaea, AD 432, I think, 325, I forget. But anyway, you can look it up. And that was the real beginning of the Dark Ages, because Christianity created the Dark Ages. Christianity was a psychic breakdown, or a last-ditch attempt to try and save the Roman Empire. Now, the Roman Empire's retraction or diminishing status began as far back as AD 60 with the Iceni Revolt in Britain. Although the Iceni Revolt was eventually crushed and Boadicea was sentenced to death, and the last of the British Druids were slaughtered in Anglesey by Suetonius Paulinus, although it's no doubt that many of them escaped back to Ireland, where Druidism was flourishing and continued to flourish for another 500 odd years. Sorry, another 1500 odd years in one form or another. It was such a shock to the Romans what happened in Britain. They really thought they had civilized the Britons, but they really thought they had them under control, but they were given the fright of their lives by the Iceni tribe, who basically killed tens of thousands of them, destroyed cities like Colchester, and the Romans never recovered from that. And ever since that point, it was a retreat. You had the growth of Christianity within the empire. You had although they had successfully crushed the Jewish revolt in Palestine or Judea, what happened then was that Judaism converted into the early form of Christianity, which had nothing to do with Jesus Christ, more or less, and became a kind of a doomsday death cult, which the Book of Revelations is all about in that time. And that's why the Catholic Church, even today, don't follow the Book of Revelations, because they know it's about the time of the Emperor Nero. And so Christianity was adopted by the Romans as a last-ditch attempt to try and save their empire. It split into two, of course, the Byzantines, then we had the Orthodox Church, and then it was in decay terminally until its final destruction in the 1400s. But the Dark Ages was really about the decline of Christianity, which was having tremendous trouble in Europe establishing itself, the growth of Islam and the establishment of Islam, particularly Moorish Islam, as a very positive force in Europe, along with what was happening in places like Ireland and places like Iona and parts of Scotland and northern England, where you had what they called the Celtic Church, which is really Druids pretending to be Christians, creating this flourishing of knowledge and ideas and information, which could have been the other way around for all we know. We just don't know. But when the Dark Ages took place, it was the Dark Ages for the Church in Rome. It wasn't the Dark Ages for most other people. The pagan world came back. The Islamic world came back, took over southern Europe. You had the growth of genuine, intellectual academic pursuits. Lots were accomplishment, not just in this is a myth as well, that like the snowflakes put out there, that the Islamic world was the only place any technology or any growth happened. No, it happened in the other parts of Europe as well. It's just that it wasn't recorded because it was lots of books were destroyed and so on. But we know they existed because of what was found in Ireland, what remained in Ireland. Book of Kells and all these other books, the Book of Dunkeld, the Book of Durrow, and all these other codices that have been found in Ireland that showed that the so-called Celtic world was absolutely as flourishing and as dynamic as the Islamic world during the so-called Dark Ages. Now, why did Rome fall apart? Rome fall apart in the way all empires fall apart. It extends its reach too far. When the empire extends its reach too far, what happens then is that it has to begin micromanaging the extreme states on the furthest frontiers of the empire. Now, the Romans actually drew a line, symbolic lines, such as Hadrian's Wall between the north of England and Scotland, a finite limit. And then they tried to mark, but that didn't work. Well, as they found themselves under attack from Pictish, and also as soon as things started to go bad, around the 300 AD, as the Irish started invading Wales and the north of England and Scotland in huge numbers and started attacking the Romans. This is why Scotland is basically an Irish product. It's named after an Irish tribe called the Scotti, who invaded to attack the Romans, and successfully too. So you had the Picts coming down the east coast and the Irish coming down the west coast, and then Britain probably would have become a completely Celtic country again if the Anglo-Saxons, who are really probably, if they existed at all, were probably Vikings, a second wave of Vikings who arrived. There's a lot of contentious information now regarding the Anglo-Saxon invasion. It probably didn't happen. You probably just had streams of Vikings coming from Denmark and from the Jutlands and all these parts of northern Europe, just continuously streaming from the Viking age on until they established their own footing, and basically England stopped becoming a Celtic country and became a Germanic Celtic country instead. Whatever Celtic is. From that the English were invented until the Romans exterminated them. The Normans exterminated them. So when the empire is extended too far, you have issues. You cannot mark. What happens is you end up neglecting at home. This is why you have a situation where you could have the aqueducts of Rome falling apart while a military governor in Judea is building a gigantic ramp to attack the Jewish revolt and enclave within Masada. Empires are expensive, and no matter how much resources and taxes you bring out of them, they will eventually begin to eat into the national treasury of the mother nation. You see this everywhere. Empires always collapse and fall into pieces. Rome collapsed. The initial split was into the two sections, the Byzantine part and the Western Roman Empire. They went on for a few hundred years. They fell apart, and all that's left really now, the Roman Empire, is modern day Italy. That's really all that's left of it. And then you have the cultural sort of like satellite states like Romania and so on. And the French Empire, the same, eventually extended its reach too far. The Vietnam War tipped it over. And then eventually issues at home, the country split in two. Remember, Algeria and that part of the world was part of Vichy France. They were not considered separate countries. They were part of France. Algeria, and they were provinces of France. And then there was an Algeria civil war in 1960, and France was split in two. You had the Spanish Empire. That was that's still splitting in two. You have the Basque region, and you have the Catalans who still want their freedom. That country is very tenuously held together. The Portuguese Empire would have experienced the same, but back in the mid-1700s, they had a major earthquake that caused a tsunami, which destroyed many of the buildings in Lisbon. So the Portuguese Empire was basically was stillborn, just as it was reaching its growth phase. It was damaged by an earthquake, and it never really recovered after that. The British Empire fell apart after Ireland broke away from the United Kingdom. The reason why you had these things happening is because when you have an empire, you have the capital city or the central area, which flourishes and all the wealth pours into, and all the external areas, the extremities, the hinterlands around them, are deliberately deprived of resources. So Ireland was deliberately held back by the British Empire, by London, and the reason for this was because we no other opportunities than to join the British Army. That's why the British Army and Navy was made up predominantly of Irish, Welsh, Scots, Highland Scots now, not Southern Scots, and the North of England people, because the regions were kept deliberately back in order to supply manpower for the South and military for the army. And that's a classic imperial trait that started with the Romans. That's why France was so highly developed, and the rest of Paris was so highly developed, and the rest of France under the Empire wasn't. Germany split in two at the end of its own empire, its short-lived empire, the Third Reich. The Soviet Union split into several pieces at the end of this Cold War, its own empire. And it just goes on and on. The Belgians probably would have done the same. They would have split into the Walloons and the Francophone sections, but World War I put an end to that after they were invaded by Germany. They would have went the same way. So this is what happens. Empires are destined to fall asunder, which brings us to the United States. Now, although the Trump election, I do welcome it because the chaos that one will unleash and the fears and insecurities will be a great engine of dynamic change and creativity. And I think America is on the right path with him. We'll see in time. I'm not supporting him, or definitely not supporting the Republicans. I'm supporting what he represents. He's almost like the Iceni revolt with inside the United States. But having said that, he basically is damage control, because the American empire reached its zenith under Obama and has been falling apart ever since. Some would say it reached its zenith with Vietnam, but I don't know about that. It was still quite successful for decades afterwards. And the United Pax Americana is in decline. It's in decline in an enormous way. And what's basically what Trump is a crisis manager. He's going to downscale the American empire. He's already done that with the cancelling of the order for those jets. There's no need for them. He said it's a waste of money. It's a black hole. It's being poured into nothing. This is when you have a situation where an empire is collapsing. Suddenly, they have to start fixing the aqueducts in Rome and forget about the building castles in Judea. This is what's happening. It's right in front of your own eyes. America is entering its dark ages. When the history of the world is written from this point on, it will be seen as a second dark age. From the American point of view, who've been since the last 50 years and maybe 75, 100 years, have been the primary power, imperial power on the face of this planet. And this is what's happening. Trump represents that. Trump represents this removal away from the exterior and into the internal. Not a bad idea. It'll probably save the United States, but there's no guarantee either. You will start to. This is why they're talking about things like the Republic of California splitting away and all this stuff. Same thing again. You have kind of like Civil War talk being put out by the like of the DNC. Classic imperial breakdown. So we're going to rise a new dark age. Now, what happens is when this collapses, the dark age appears somewhere else. So, for instance, when Rome collapsed, a new power moved in. Ironically, in the United States, I think the new power will be the Latinos and the blacks. Latinos and blacks have been held back by the Democrats, who kept them impoverished and kept them in a state of welfare mindset and poverty consciousness. It's the state. You never see those movies made by a man Ken Loach in England. They're always about people in England in the working class how their lives are shit and miserable and they're never going to get any better. Well, the Democratic Party in the United States has done that for the same period of time, about the last 50 years. It's a black magic spell. It always tells people they're victims and they're pathetic. With Trump in power, what will happen is the reverse of that. Black people will embrace these changes, and so will Latinos, and they will start becoming more powerful in those societies. They're already quite powerful, surprisingly powerful. If they were separated, if Latino Americans and Black Americans were separated from the economy, they would be very, very powerful economies in their own right. And you will see that flourishing, and that will be seen by Middle America, these sort of evangelical Christian types who take the Bible literally and they're not very bright and think that the evolution didn't happen and the earth is flat. They will consider it a dark age. The barbarians at the gate, but it won't. They will flourish. But the main driver of dark age type, shall we say, dynamics are the hinterlands, the former nations that were once under control. So you had like Ireland wasn't under direct Roman control, but Britain was, and it had a Celtic flourishing afterwards. You had the same all over Europe. You had Portugal and Spain had a great flourishing with the Moors, and even in their own Catholic kingdoms that survived. I would look to places like Central Asia. I would look at places like Kazakhstan, that part of the world. Suddenly these Borat lands won't look like Borat land anymore. You will see big changes. You will see their economies turning around. You will see them standing up and demanding a bigger piece of the international pie. You will see the same with the Eastern European nations as the European Empire collapses. The EU, you will see the likes of Poland trying to re-establish itself as a power in Central Eastern Europe. You will see countries like Hungary, Austria try to re-establish themselves. The former Czechoslovakian states, Czech Republic, or Czechia as it's called now, and Slovakia in particular, the Bohemian parts of that will try to re-establish themselves in this manner as someone who has something to say. The breakaway state to watch in Northern Europe will be Denmark. Denmark will definitely try to assert itself more and more. Just watch my words. You will see Well, we're already seeing a deterioration and a lack of interest in American popular culture. American movies are terrible now. They're absolutely horrifically bad. American TV tends to be quite good. It's still very good. I'm often by myself highly surprised by the quality of TV shows made by mainstream TV shows made in the US these days. That's because TV represents internal and movies represent external notions. So the external notions of great American stories being told in the cinema is dead. It's all these Michael Bay explosion movies and all this nonsense. David Cameron films, horrible films like Avatar and so on. It's rubbish. All these big blockbusters, badly made films of Marvel superhero comics, and so on. Where the TV is getting better, more introspective, higher levels of acting, definitely much higher levels of writing and production, internalized. America is going into itself, and it's a good thing. The Hermit card. You will see popular culture from other parts of the world getting very strong. You will see countries like Israel changing. Israel won't get the money it gets anymore from the USA. That will start declining, and you'll see you see Israel becoming a better country, because a lot of the problems caused by Israel is caused directly by American Christians pouring money into it. If that was taken away, Israel would be a happier country in a sea of mud. The Middle East, Islam is a horrific place now. There's little or no hope for Islam or Islamic countries, particularly the Arabic ones. You can see how much. All you have to do is compare Asian Islamic countries like Malaysia to the Arabic ones. So the Arabic world is basically dead. It's gone. It's finished. The Arab is now like the Native American, but for different reasons. The Native American was destroyed by imperial forces of the United States. The Arab destroyed itself with Islam, which is an imperial force, because those people were originally pagans to begin with. Many of them were Christians and many of them were Jews. Many of the Palestinians were Jews who were converted under the Ottoman Empire, not always forcibly. Many did it to get jobs in government or career moves in the Ottoman armies and navies and so on. Pax Americana's decline is all part of this idea of the purgatory I'm talking about. We're in purgatory at the moment. We're not in heaven. Those of you who think that a political situation brings you towards a state of bliss or a state of heaven is never going to do that. It's never going to do that. We're being pushed into a state of purgatory. Now, when you're in a state of purgatory, you've no church to help you. You have no God really to help you. You have no one else to help you but yourself. Purgatory is all about taking care of your own ass and bettering yourself. As a metaphor, I'm talking about. I don't believe in purgatory as a real thing. Although compared to heaven and hell, it makes a lot more sense to me. I can't understand how someone would want to go to heaven. You'd die of boredom up there. Purgatory would be much more my scene. So you're in, and the ideas of purgatory, they're very similar to the ideas of the Nordic idea of the afterlife. That you go there as a learning experience. That you go there as a trial, and it's very similar. Let's start going into the archetypes now. I know you love when I talk about that stuff, because I love it. I love when I talk about this stuff. We're coming into kind of an Odinist phase. Remember, Odin became a very powerful god during the last Dark Ages, and he's becoming a very powerful god again. Why? Because Odin's story mirrors or represents the smart, clever people who are around today. Like, if you were around today, the ones who are finished are going, "Oh my God, Trump is horrible. This is the end of everything." Well, what they're doing is they're not having enough faith in themselves as individuals, and they're expecting a greater political solution. Well, the path to discovery is always in yourself. Look at Odin, right? Odin, why does he have one eye? Because Odin's quest for enlightenment had never stopped, ever. And he was even death, even anything, he was willing to sacrifice himself to get that far. He wanted to know about the mysteries of the life, the universe. He wanted to know it all. He hung himself from the tree. He wounded him upside down. That's where the hanged man card comes from. He wounded himself with a spear. And he, just like Jesus, he fasted for food and drink for, I think it was 9 days or 11 days. No, it was 9 days in order to discover the ruins. But the most famous story is when he went into Mimir's well, which is where the well of Urd is, and that's at the bottom of the Yggdrasil tree. And there was these shadowy entities there who had knowledge of all things. And when he got to the well, Odin said that he wanted to drink from the waters, and the guardians who knew or were aware that the water was so powerful, this holy water, this druidic type water, refused unless Odin gave him one of his eyes. So Odin, without thinking about it, knowing that the price was worthy of paying, or better to pay this price than to not get enlightenment, gouged out or pulled out one of his own eyes, and then Mimir put the drinking horn in the well and offered Odin, the one-eyed god, a draught of this water. Now the story of this is what we are now. Odin is such a wonderful god. This is why it makes me sick that all these Nazis and these skinheads are all, they all think he's great. Odin's beauty is that no tribulation that he was going to put himself under was too great or too much in order to create and gain insight and enlightenment, because ultimately Odin's enlightenment was his gift to all humanity. This is a beautiful idea, right? It's a beautiful idea that you have a god who's not going to kill himself, but he's going to remove one eye in order to find a better vision with that one eye for all humanity, is the story of the age that we're living in now. Odin willingly sacrificed himself to a semi-dark age, one eye, in order to increase enlightenment for everyone else. And we've got to do the same as well. This is what this age is all about. This age is all about what's real. What's real? I'm just thinking about something that's happening in Ireland at the moment right now. On a cultural level, I see like this hipster. You go to like Dublin, and you see this hipster culture. And I saw this thing with this hipster cafe where they're selling unicorn hot chocolate, which looks absolutely like vomit, and it's like pink girly hot chocolate, and it's got like pink and colored marshmallows on it, and little candy cane sticks, and it's all like girly, and it's grown hipster men drinking it, thinking that they're cool. While on the other side of Ireland, people are embracing images of the Shiel and the Gig, which is the ancient symbol of the female fertility goddess right in Ireland, a woman holding her vagina open with her fingers. The portal. So you see it's right there. So all the hipsters are all upset and terrorized about Brexit and Trump, but they're all drinking unicorn-colored coffee, while the other side of the society is going back to the roots, going back to the real culture. That shows you the difference between real culture and bullshit culture. And that's what happens during this new dark age. The bullshit culture is going into decline. You heard me say that American films popular films and popular culture, except for TV, is losing its power. Look at American pop music. Look at the garbage. It just came out this week that Mozart now sells more records than Beyonce, and Beyonce is the biggest pop star in the world. Something that would have been unheard of 25 years ago. It's not because there's a sudden interest in Mozart to that degree, but there absolutely is. The great Freemason mystic that he was. But it's just that the music industry has changed, and when it came down to actually something given away for free, when you give something away for free, it has no value. Therefore, it has no need, no worth. This is why I'm a capitalist. This is why I don't believe in socialism. I don't believe in things like a basic income. When something has value, that value is added to or increased in an upcycled way by people's relationship to it. When you hand over money for music, you cherished it because you put a sacrifice into that. In the old days, when you bought an album, when I was growing up, buying an album, I mean, I had to work part-time jobs to buy an album as a kid. When you got it home, if the album was great, you cherished it for the rest of your life. If it wasn't so great, well, the band didn't either survive, or maybe they got their act together and the next album was excellent. But there was a sacrifice there. Nowadays, when you don't have any sacrifice for pop music, it's all over the place for free on YouTube, for downloads, everything. What happens then is you place no value upon it because there was no sacrifice. You didn't gouge out your eye in order to attain it. You just picked it up. It was background wallpaper music. Therefore, its value, unless all things that are passive, unless they're natural, have no value, none at all. This is why capitalism is still the best system ever invented. So it has no value. Her music gets worse. I was in a supermarket yesterday and I could not believe what I was hearing. There was a song playing in the background going, I wish I was a polar bear. I wish I was a polar bear. It was just like that unicorn hot chocolate I just spoke about. Infantilism among the hipster class. Infantilism among the snowflake bunch. Infantilism amongst everyone who's terrified of the changes that are coming or have begun in society. I swear to God, it went like that. And then you have there was another song that played afterwards. Then every note on it was like a girl going on an auto tune. That was literally the song. Now it's not my age, and don't give me the shit that it's my age, because the young kids, they don't even listen to that crap. The only people that listen to the crap are mentally ill DJs who play it, or people like Simon Cowell. Young people today are listening to bands that I grew up with. I'm amazed when I was looking at the video the other day of It's That You Modine by the B-52. It was one of their best songs by a mile. And all the comments on it were by younger people. Oh, I wish we had this music today. And the same with all the metal bands, the goth bands, Susie and the Banshees. It's all 17, 16-year-olds. So don't give me this thing, it's an age thing. It's because I'm aging. Music is shit today. I always said I'd be the type that no matter how old I got, I'd still be listening to what was in the charts. And that was true right up until the 2000. I was buying Kylie Minogue records. And then pop music went to absolute shit after that. And that's what's happening. The culture's died. Then we have the growth of internalized, self-homemade creators who don't do it for the money. But I still think that's a bad thing too as well. I think musicians should be rewarded for their work. I really do. Just people say, oh, well, music is free today and people don't do it for money anymore. I still think that's a bad thing. You still need the energetic reward for it. And getting likes on Facebook is not as good as a royalty check. People who write good music and good songs deserve royalty checks, milk money, cash, riches. They can't pay their bills, have a good lifestyle, or take care of themselves or their families with Facebook likes. They need hard cash. So hopefully with Trump in power in the United States, it will bring back more capitalism, more mercantile capitalism, because the people who have suffered more than anyone else from globalization are the artists, the creators. Because when the internet came along, it's just like Gene Simmons from Kiss said, the day he opened up Napster, it was the day he said, that's it, the music industry is finished. And he was right, because I seen him explain to Henry Rollins. Henry Rollins had a row with me a few weeks ago. Well, a little bit of a tiff. Anyway, but Henry's a nice guy, but still, he was right, Gene Simmons, what he said to him. He said to Henry Rollins, he said, with a free music, who is going to inject money into bands so they can go on tour? Doesn't matter what kind of band, a punk band, a metal band, a hip-hop band, you still need that money to launch a career. That's why people are signed by labels. So they can also do other things like get management, get paid for promotions, pay for equipment, pay for tours. With these advances, they don't exist anymore because there's no music industry anymore. That's something I would like. We also now albums are selling. Vinyl is now selling more than downloads because it's value again. It's not commercial. It's not commercial as something if it has a beauty to it, right? It's not commercial. If something has a real value to it, and that's why, because vinyl albums became rare. So then they were cherished again. They were valued. Digital download music will never have any value. It will never have any worth. But they keep pushing it and pushing it more into our faces, just like when the Roman Empire ended. When the Colosseum first opened in Rome, it was only meant to be used 2 or 3 times a year. Towards the decline of the Roman Empire, it was used every single day of the week for gladiatorial battles, animal sacrifices, all kinds of nonsense. Every day of the week towards the end. Because it had no value, because it didn't represent anything anymore. That's what's happening. They're pushing X Factor by the score. They're pushing this naff entertainment by the score. It'll reach. That's why you had what's her name, Honey G, and the British X Factor do so well. A working class Jewish woman who can't really rap, but everyone loved her because she was two fingers to what the likes of Simon Cowell and all these these sort of like boy band and girl band type monkeys in a suit singing a stupid song, who are all generic bullshit. She was different. People saw someone different. She was part of the Brexit Trump dynamic, and that's why the establishment hated her. They hate her because they don't like being. It's just the same reason why socialists hate when working class people don't vote for socialism, and they want to be rich and work hard, make money, and get success. Socialists hate being reminded of that. They want delusions. Everything is the delusion, and what happens is the empire is now at the point of delusion. And here comes the new Dark Ages, and we are in purgatory. We're in purgatory, and it's wonderful because we now have, for the first time in years, we now have goals to work towards. I'm going to be just like the Irish who attacked Britain when the Romans left. I'm going to be going, I'm not going to be going out with a sword, but I'm going to be looking at what can I achieve as a person to broaden my lifestyle and broaden my worldview and broaden my experience in life with the collapse of the American Empire. There's lots of things I can do. There's lots of things you can do. And the ones who can do it are the ones who are now looking forward to the future. The ones who can't do it, the ones who are caught up in the mainstream media, old political system, know they're finished. They know they're finished. It's over. Their world is over and they are finished. That's why they're drinking pink unicorn hot chocolate and making up nonsense that Russia had fixed the US election. Okay, let's say Russia did fix the US election. I can tell you for a fact that even the ones who voted for Trump would see that as an act of war. They would see that as an act of war. They're not that stupid. But that didn't happen. This is delusional psychosis. Apparently, Hillary Clinton is hurting. Well, what about the people she left to be murdered in Benghazi? Were they not hurting? Was Gaddafi not hurting? Was this trail of misery she's left behind in her life, are those people not hurting? Fuck her. She lost. That's the end of it. Her world is dead. That's what, look at Tony Blair trying to be resurrected from the grave like a fucking zombie. The Dark Age is upon us. Become the Vandal. Become the Barbarian. That's it. Become the Barbarians. We are the barbarians in purgatory as the shining light of the Dark Ages. That's what we are. Islam won't have a second revival. Islam is a doomed religion anyway because it's a lunar debt cult, and it'll always find itself in conflict with the solar debt cult, which is Christianity. And Christianity and Islam will continue to savage one another. Remember, Israel's problem with Islam is caused by American fundamentalist Christians who are basically paying Israel to attack them. But Islam, the lunar debt cult, and Christianity, the solar debt cult, will continue to gnaw and tear each other asunder. Good, let them do it. We'll just ignore them. We'll just ignore them. We are the beacon of hope because we're doing it for ourselves as individuals. Don't do it for some Russell Brand revolution. Don't do it for some great quest, the reset, the zeitgeist movement. Don't do it for any of that crap. Don't do it for socialism. Don't do it even for the alt-right. You don't need any of that stuff. Don't do any of it. Do it for yourself. This is why, as much as I like heathenism and all this stuff, I'm not going to join a Stura or any kind of Nordic religion. That's just Christianity again under a different meme, a different rehack. I don't want a church to go. My church is the grove in the forests, the stream in the mountains, the waves crashing upon the shore. That's where I feel the power of the Almighty Creator, no matter what, the unknowable Creator that has no sex, no gender, the primal force behind the universe that manifests itself as energy forces in archetypes such as Odin, Thor, and so on. But I don't worship them as gods. I respect and honor what they give to me. I respect and honor what they teach me. But my temple is not going to be an Astura temple. It's not going to be a heathen temple. It's not going to be a pagan druidic temple, because the Druids didn't have temples. They had groves in the woods. That should be your temple. You don't need churches anymore. You don't need any of that nonsense anymore. You don't need Bibles anymore. You never needed that crap to begin with. The barbarian in purgatory in the new dark ages. How romantic does that sound? Doesn't that sound much better than being caught up in some kind of a fake identity imposed upon you? I'm part of the Russian Brain Revolution. I'm following I'm a member of I joined Amazon. I joined Anonymous. Yeah, I joined Anonymous. Yeah, I joined Anonymous because I wanted to be an individual by wearing the same fucking mask everyone else is wearing. That was the end. That was the dying thing. Laugh. Ridicule. And enjoy your life. Create. This is the most important one of all. Create like a motherfucker. Even if you're not being paid for it, still do it. But find a way to be paid for it. We're going to find in the next few years new business models that will remunerate and will pay creators such as songwriters. Something is going to happen. There's some kind. I can feel it. I can sense some kind of change where people, just like video creators on YouTube. Well, this is another thing. Instead of putting your music on SoundCloud, make a YouTube video and monetize the account. That way, you will get some money. Make effort. Don't just put a song up there. Make videos about your band being formed. Show little videos of you recording the songs. Do little talks about what the song is about. Get up there and show the song being played. Show people what the chords are. Monetize these videos, and you will be paid for your talent. If you just load them up on the SoundCloud, you're going to get nothing. And no one says, don't give me this crap like, I'm an artist. I don't want money for what everyone wants fucking money for to do. And artists and creators more than anyone else deserve money for their originality. More than anyone else. Anyone can go to college, learn how to repeat what the college professor told you. And they're the ones who are picking up the checks. It should be the other way around. It's the ones with the original ideas should be picking up the paychecks. One of the reasons for this is creative people are not very good at marketing themselves. YouTube gives you a phenomenal platform to get a few shekels and get some kind of reward for what you've done. That's your music industry now. There's nothing else. And of course, you can do things like produce CDs and sell them at gigs, this kind of thing. But it's coming. Something's changing. There's going to be a big change now. A move back to authentic music and authentic art. I think the Podesta Pizzagate thing and your one Marina Abramovich, that's all going to be that's going to be the end of that poxy art scene. In fact, Tracy Ian, whose art is bullshit, but she's actually a nice lady, has been chastised and ostracized and outcast from the British sort of like outsider art community. Why? Because she voted Tory. That happened to Paul Weller too when he was in the Jam. He said he was going to vote Tory because he was sick of all the strikes and everything. He was right. He's right to do that. The lefties do nothing for society. They just talk about it. They actually make it worse. Because things like unions and civil servants take control. That's the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages are when the trade unions and the civil servants are in control, and they just use it to line their own pockets, just like the cardinals and bishops of the Middle Ages used Christianity to line their own pockets. So don't be, stop this victim complex regarding, I can't get paid. There's people on my YouTube channel, People I know have made songs. I've introduced them to huge numbers of people through my Facebook and social networking. I will help you if your product is and your song and your creativity is good. There's lots of fellas like me and women like me who will help you. We're glad to help you. We want to help creators. But you've got to help yourself too as well. You've got to get yourself those accounts up on YouTube and start monetizing them. And don't give me this crap, oh, you get a few pennies at first. Yeah, you do. Even I don't get any much from YouTube, but I get enough to pay for a few little small bills, like my heating bill and things like that. And that's good enough for me. But it's still the satisfaction of getting that. That's why I monetize my videos. I have a bit of art, I have a bit of this, I get a bit from my books, but I don't have a steady income. I have to fight for every penny I get, but I love it. I wouldn't live any other way. I love it. I'm a true capitalist in the old-fashioned sense. I'm not in employment with the man, but I'm getting money from the man's world. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just like that's the way I like to live. I'm a journeyman. It's my nature as a person. I'm a creator and a journeyman. That's just what I am. And this is going to be our golden age. It's coming up, but only for the ones who take it. So stop thinking about the Arts Council giving you more money to be an artist. You don't need the Art Council money. You do it yourself. Stop thinking about the music industry is not going to help you. Music industry as it was is dead. You help yourself. Create your own personal cottage music industry. There's lots already doing it. Same with filmmakers. We have the technology and we have the ability to actually take the sorcery into our own hands. If you do crafts, just to get out there and sell them, generate. This is the big thing too. That people say, "Oh, the conspiracy theorists who go on about the market. They're going to give us the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast. They're going to put a microchip in the hand, just like it says in Revelation. The mark of the beast. Buy water filters. The mark of the beast. Cash the society. Buy gold. Buy silver. Mark of the beast. The microchip. No more cash. Well, if everyone forms little cottage industries, even if you have a regular job and goes to markets at the weekend selling your knitting, selling your artwork, selling your music, anything, your cakes, anything, that's all going to be paid for in small pieces of cash. This is why pimps, prostitutes and drug dealers are kind of heroes today, because they're dealing in cash. Keep cash in circulation by getting yourself into the cash world. Sell your crafts at the market. Small portions like that in a neighborhood, or go to the next neighborhood, next city if you don't want to be seen. Keep it in circulation. Then you'll get the mark of the beast. The beast, the mark of the beast. These things are fucking simple. These things are simple. Stop waiting to be discovered. You've already been discovered by yourself. Get out there and sell. Get out there and market. Yes, there's always going to be negative things you're going to deal with. You're always going to meet assholes, okay? When you buy land, you buy stone. When you buy meat, you buy bone. When you engage with society, you meet assholes. It's always going to be that way. It's never going to change, right? And that's never going to ever, 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 ever change. So, in closing, and we'll finish with another playing of John Presley's wonderful remix of the Velocity of Now tune. Firstly, we're entering a new Dark Ages. The previous Dark Ages was only bad for the Romans and the Christian Empire. Pagan, heathen, and other cultures flourished during the last Dark Ages. If you're inclined in that way of thinking, you will flourish in this present Dark Ages that we're entering. Purgatory is not hell. Purgatory is a challenge that allows you to better yourself to get out, and feck them if they can't take a joke. See you next time.
Need for salvation. is a very interesting thing, especially when people talk about their independence, their free will. If you need someone to save you, or you need a counter culture or mainstream culture savior, someone who validates your opinions, you're really a slave. Suffering from a disease, and the disease is that you have not understood that the problem is really your belief in external salvation beyond yourself. If you didn't need to feel this desire to have an authority figure or a celebrity or a politician validate and express your feelings, you wouldn't need these saviors in the first place. And this is the root of the problem. We are very carefully controlled from the time we're children to have a sort of the need for a savior.
There is no turning back. You got to face the truth. It's all you have to do. Hit the ground and run. Take a second glance towards the rising sun.
You grow up with that picture of Jesus Christ with his Dionysian beard and long hair, and his softness and his Aryan looks. And you believe that, deep in your subconscious, that this is someone you need. But you're missing the point completely. Salvation is your own ass. Accept it and please deal with it.